My friends, when the world looks at a great shift in commerce, they often see only the surface, a headline, a number, a date. But life is never just about events. Life is about causes, and causes are born in the invisible realm before they appear in the visible world. India did not simply end trade with America as an act of economics. No, it was an act of alignment. For years, the two nations exchanged goods, but goods are only symbols. Behind the crates and cargo ships, behind the balance sheets and trade agreements, there was another exchange. The exchange of values, of respect, of trust. When that invisible exchange became imbalanced, the visible one followed suit. Just as a tree cannot bear fruit without healthy roots, trade cannot flourish without truth. India saw that it was being offered seeds that could not grow in her soil, terms that drained rather than nourished. And so she spoke the most powerful word in the language of freedom. Now, let us be clear. No is not always rejection. Often it is a declaration of worth. It is a nation's way of saying, we will not sell our birthright for a bowl of soup. And in that no, India made a yes, yes to self-reliance, yes to fair exchange, yes to the principle that prosperity is never begged for, only claimed. Every person here today can learn from this. In your own life, there are trades you make daily, with employers, with friends, with your own thoughts. Some trades enrich your soul, others diminish it. The law of life is simple. Whatever you accept, you multiply. If you trade your peace for fear, fear will grow. If you trade your integrity for approval, you will lose both. But if you trade smallness for courage, poverty for gratitude, doubt for faith, your warehouse will overflow with good things. India's choice was a mirror for us all. You do not need to remain in an agreement that robs you of power. The moment you release what is wrong for you, you create space for what is right for you. And so this is not the story of a trade ending. It is the story of a nation remembering her value and showing the world that true wealth is the ability to walk away from what is not worthy. Let your own life be guided by that truth. Stand firm in the invisible, and the visible will follow. Because in the end, the greatest trade you can make is to give up fear for faith. All change begins in the invisible before it appears in the visible. This is the unchanging law of life. Everything you see was once unseen. Every building you enter was first an idea. Every song you hear was first a whisper in someone's heart. Every movement in the physical world is the echo of a movement in the unseen world. Before the seed breaks the ground, there is life stirring inside the shell. That life is invisible to the eye, but it is real. The same is true for events in the life of a nation. The same is true for the path of an individual. There are thoughts that begin to move. There are choices that are formed quietly. There is an alignment that takes place in the realm you cannot touch. People think change happens suddenly. They see a decision announced. They see a door closed. They see a trade agreement ended. But the truth is that the seed of that change has been growing for a long time in silence. What appears as sudden is only the visible arrival of something that has been preparing in the invisible for months or years. The invisible is the blueprint. The visible is the building. If the blueprint is altered, the building will change. If the foundation is drawn differently, the walls will follow. You cannot expect a house to look different without first changing the design. You cannot expect the course of a river to change without first changing the source. Every invention that transformed the world existed in thought before it existed in matter. Every revolution that altered history began as a conviction in the hearts of a few before it was the action of the many. Every breakthrough in science existed in the imagination before it existed in the laboratory. The pattern is always the same. The invisible gives birth to the visible. A nation that changes direction has already changed its mind before it changes its policy. Leaders have already spoken in quiet rooms before they speak to the world. A heart has already shifted before the body moves. You may not see these shifts, but they are the real cause of what follows. The farmer knows that the harvest depends on the seed. He knows that to change the crop, he must change the seed. No one blames the soil for the crop if they planted the wrong seed. In the same way, you must look to the invisible for the cause of the visible. When you understand this, you no longer waste energy blaming the outer form. You work on the inner cause. If you want peace, you must sow peace in thought. If you want prosperity, you must plant prosperity in belief. If you want respect, you must first respect yourself in the secret chambers of your heart. You cannot reap joy if you have been sowing resentment. You cannot reap strength if you have been sowing fear. You cannot reap unity if you have been sowing division. The harvest always matches the seed. This truth applies to great events between nations. It applies to quiet moments in your personal life. When a friendship ends, it ended in thought before it ended in words. When a job is left, it was left in feeling before it was left in fact. When a person rises to success, they rose in vision before they rose in circumstance. The invisible is not less real because it cannot be seen. In fact, it is more powerful because it shapes what will be seen. The architect does not rush to place bricks before he has a plan. The artist does not rush to paint before she has a vision. The composer does not rush to write notes before hearing the melody within. The invisible is the womb. The visible is the child. This is why wise people guard their inner world. They do not allow the soil of their mind to be planted with weeds by careless conversation. They do not allow their vision to be clouded by fear. They choose their thoughts with the same care as a jeweler chooses gems. They know that every thought is a seed. They know that seeds grow when watered with attention. A nation is simply a collection of many minds. When enough minds hold the same thought, a nation moves in that direction. When enough people believe in self-reliance, the nation becomes self-reliant. When enough people believe in fairness, the nation acts fairly. When enough people believe they have been wronged, the nation seeks to right that wrong. The invisible consensus becomes the visible action. India's decision to change its trade path was not made in a day. It was the result of many invisible moments. Moments of reflection, moments of realization, moments of recognizing what was no longer in harmony. The visible announcement was simply the flower. The roots had been growing quietly in the unseen soil of thought for years. You too have flowers ready to appear in your life. Some are flowers you have planted with intention. Some are weeds you have allowed to grow by neglect. Both will bloom in their season unless you act in the invisible. If you do not like the flowers that are coming, you must change the seeds today. That is the power you hold. Understand this, and you will never again feel powerless when change comes. You will know where it began. You will know where to begin again. You will work with the unseen with patience and faith. You will wait for the harvest without fear, because you have sown the right seeds. Every outer shift is a mirror of an inner shift. Change the inner and the outer will follow. This is not a theory, it is the law of creation. It is the law that nations follow without knowing it. It is the law that every life obeys. The invisible always precedes the visible. The cause always precedes the effect. The seed always precedes the harvest. When you master the invisible, you master your life. When you plant with care, you harvest with joy. When you align your inner world with truth, you will see truth manifest in your outer world. This is the beginning of all real change, and it always begins where no eye can see. Trade is more than goods. It is the exchange of values and respect. This is the truth that many miss when they speak only of numbers and charts. Ships may carry containers filled with merchandise. Planes may carry cargo sealed in crates, but within every trade there is something greater than the physical object. There is the invisible essence of the exchange. A sack of grain is not just food. It carries the intention of the seller. It carries the trust of the buyer. A machine is not just metal and bolts. It carries the promise of performance. It carries the hope of mutual gain. A contract is not only paper and ink. It is a bond between two parties. It is a declaration of faith in each other's word. When a nation sends goods, it sends a part of itself. It sends the fruit of its labor. It sends the reflection of its skill. It sends the evidence of its values. The receiver does not simply receive an item. They receive a message about how they are seen and respected. If that message is honorable, then the trade is more than a transaction. It becomes a bridge. Trade without respect is like a handshake without sincerity. It may look polite to the eye, but it leaves the heart untouched. You can exchange gold for silver and still feel poor if the trade is empty of goodwill. You can exchange small items and still feel rich if the trade is filled with fairness. The visible object is only the carrier. The invisible content is what truly matters. Every lasting partnership rests on trust. Trust is built through consistent respect. It is built through mutual understanding. It is built through a shared belief that both will gain without the other losing. The moment respect fades, the foundation begins to crack. Once that crack widens, the structure cannot stand for long. Nations know this truth, though they may speak in the language of tariffs and agreements. Behind the formal language, there is the unspoken awareness of how each side is treating the other. A price that is too high can be felt as a lack of respect. A term that is unfair can be felt as a lack of value. A refusal to listen can be felt as a lack of trust. When respect is absent, the goods lose their glow. The buyer begins to look elsewhere. The seller begins to withdraw. Trade then becomes an exchange of objects with no soul. This is the point at which commerce begins to wither. It does not matter if the numbers remain large for a season. Without respect, they will shrink in time. You can see this principle in your own life. When you give something to a friend without thought or care, the gift feels hollow. When you give with love, the smallest gift becomes great. The exchange is never just about the item. It is always about the meaning carried in the item. That meaning is what strengthens or weakens the bond. This is why nations sometimes end trade. The goods may still arrive, the payments may still be made, but the values behind the trade have shifted. One side may feel taken for granted. One side may feel its work is not truly honored. One side may feel the other has placed profit above principle. Once these feelings take root, they grow. Eventually, the visible trade will mirror the invisible change. India's choice to end certain trade agreements was not simply a calculation of profit and loss. It was a statement about values. It was a statement about self-worth. It was a declaration that respect must be equal for the exchange to continue. Goods can be found in many places. True respect is rare. When it is absent, the price is too high, no matter what the currency. Trade is more than the movement of products. It is the movement of trust. Trust is the invisible currency that underlies every visible deal. When trust flows, the trade grows. When trust is blocked, the trade declines. This is why wise nations guard not only their resources but their relationships. You can apply this truth to your own dealings. In every exchange, ask yourself what values you are sending along with the item. Ask yourself whether the other person feels respected in the process. Ask yourself whether the gain is mutual or one-sided. A trade that enriches one and robs the other will not last. A trade that honors both will endure through storms. Some people measure wealth only by possessions. The wise measure wealth by the quality of their exchanges. A house gained through dishonor is a poor house. A modest home gained through respect is a palace in spirit. The visible comfort fades without the invisible peace. Nations have the same choice. They can chase immediate gain and lose respect, or they can insist on respect and build lasting gain. The second path is slower, but it is stronger. The first path is fast, but it is fragile. One is a bridge, the other is a trap. When you understand that trade is more than goods, you begin to see the hidden cause of many changes in the world. You begin to hear the tone beneath the words. You begin to notice whether the handshake is warm or cold. You begin to see why some deals thrive and others collapse. The reason is almost always found in the invisible currency of respect. India's decision was the outer sign of an inner truth. The respect that once moved alongside the goods was no longer there. And when the respect was gone, the goods could no longer carry the same value. The bridge between the two nations had lost its strength. Ending the trade was simply the recognition that the bridge was no longer safe to cross. You and I can learn from this on a personal level. Do not stay in exchanges where respect is absent. Do not accept goods or favors that carry the weight of disrespect. Do not give your labor to those who do not value it. Your worth is not set by their measure. Your worth is set by the truth within you. Trade is a mirror. It reflects how two sides see each other. If the reflection is clear, the path is smooth. If the reflection is clouded, the path becomes rough. Guard the clarity. Guard the respect. Guard the values that travel unseen in every exchange. They are the true treasures. And remember this always. When the values are right, the goods will flow with ease. When the respect is real, the trade will prosper. When the invisible is strong, the visible will flourish. Trade is more than goods. It is the bond of hearts across distance. It is the bridge of trust across waters. It is the proof that values can be exchanged as surely as any cargo. Imbalance in the unseen leads to breakdown in the seen. This is a law that governs both the life of a single person and the destiny of a nation. It is the same in relationships. It is the same in business. It is the same in trade. The unseen is the root. The seen is the fruit. If the root is poisoned, the fruit will not remain sweet. The unseen is made of thoughts. It is made of beliefs. It is made of intentions. It is made of the way one party regards another. When these are aligned, there is harmony. When these are unequal, there is strain. That strain may not be noticed at first. The outer appearance may look fine, but the imbalance is growing beneath the surface. You can see this in the earth itself. When the weight of a structure is not evenly distributed, the cracks begin to appear. At first they are hairline, almost invisible. Later they become deep. They spread. Eventually the building cannot stand. The imbalance in the unseen foundation caused the visible collapse. The same happens in the exchange between nations. The ships may still arrive on schedule. The agreements may still be signed. The speeches may still speak of unity. But if the respect is one-sided, if the gain is uneven, if one gives more and receives less in return, an imbalance is created. That imbalance begins to press on the unseen foundation. It begins to push the walls apart. Imbalance is not always about numbers. It is not always about who pays more or who receives more. It is about the deeper measure. It is about whether the values are equal. It is about whether the intentions are pure. It is about whether each side feels the same level of regard. When this measure is unequal, the imbalance has already begun. People often focus on visible signs of collapse. They ask why a deal ended. They look at the final quarrel. They point to the last disagreement. But these are only the final leaves falling from the tree. The root had been drying for a long time. The unseen imbalance had been draining its strength until the tree could no longer stand. You can see this truth in your personal life. When two friends give equally in spirit, the friendship grows. If one gives and the other only takes, the bond begins to weaken. The imbalance starts quietly. The giver feels unappreciated. The receiver feels entitled. The energy between them changes. Words may still be polite. Smiles may still be present, but the foundation is shifting. The visible break will come later. This is why wise people guard the balance in every exchange. They notice if they are giving too much without return. They notice if they are taking more than they give. They correct the imbalance before it grows. They know that the easiest time to fix a crack is when it is small. Nations do the same when they are wise. They watch the flow of value. They watch the flow of respect. They listen to the unspoken messages in the terms of trade. They act before the imbalance destroys the structure. If they cannot correct it, they may choose to end the exchange. This is not an act of hostility. It is an act of preservation. An unseen imbalance can exist even when the visible trade appears strong. Numbers may rise. Profits may look good. But if one side is building dependence while the other is building control, the imbalance is growing. In time, this will appear in the visible world as loss. This is not a surprise. It is the natural result of the unseen cause. India saw that the scales were no longer equal. The visible goods continued to move, but the invisible weight had shifted. There was more pressure on one side than the other. The balance that once held the trade steady was gone. The decision to end the trade was not sudden. It was the final step in a process that had begun in the unseen. You can take this truth and apply it to your own affairs. Look beyond the surface. Ask yourself where the energy is flowing. Ask yourself whether you feel equal in spirit in your exchanges. Do you feel valued as much as you value others? Do you give more respect than you receive? Do you carry more weight than is fair? These are signs of imbalance. An imbalance left unchecked will always lead to a breakdown. It may be slow, it may be fast, but it is certain. This is not a threat, it is a natural law. You do not need to fear it, you simply need to work with it. Correct the unseen and the seen will heal. Imagine a scale. One side holds your effort. The other side holds what you receive in return. If one side rises too high or sinks too low, the scale is no longer level. In trade, this scale measures value. In relationships, this scale measures love and respect. In business, this scale measures fairness and gain. Keep it level, and it will hold steady. Let it tilt too far, and it will tip. In the unseen, the imbalance is emotional and mental. It is the silent agreements that no longer feel fair. It is the belief that one side is more important. It is the unspoken assumption that the other side will always give in. These create a weight that cannot be ignored forever. When the breakdown comes, it may look like a single act. A contract is canceled. A friendship ends. A partnership dissolves. But if you look deeper, you will see the real cause. The unseen imbalance had been calling for correction long before the visible break appeared. India's action was simply the correction made visible. It was the scale returning to level by removing the excess weight. It was the invisible cause expressing itself in a visible form. Once you understand this, you will no longer be surprised by sudden changes in the world. You will know that nothing breaks without cause. You will know that every visible effect has an invisible beginning. Balance is peace. Balance is strength. Balance is fairness. Guard it in every exchange. Watch for the subtle signs of tilt. Adjust before the crack widens. In this way, you keep the unseen strong and the seen will remain whole. Remember, the invisible rules the visible. The imbalance in the unseen will always become the breakdown in the seen. But the reverse is also true. The balance in the unseen will always become the strength in the seen. And that is the power you hold. Saying no can be an act of self-worth, not rejection. Many people fear the word no because they believe it closes doors. They believe it cuts off opportunities. They believe it creates enemies. But in truth, no can be a key that opens the right door. It can be the boundary that protects what is valuable. It can be the declaration that you know your worth. No is not always a wall. Sometimes it is a gate. It is the line that says this far and no further. It is the signal that you value what is within more than what is being offered from without. It is the language of self-respect. It is the language of self-trust. When a person says no from fear, it is an act of retreat. But when a person says no from self-worth, it is an act of strength. The difference is in the spirit behind the word. Fear says no because it doubts it can handle the risk. Self-worth says no because it knows it deserves better. Nations face the same choice. They can say no because they fear loss, or they can say no because they know their value. India's decision to end certain trade agreements was not a retreat from the world. It was a statement to the world. It was the message that respect must be equal. It was the choice to preserve dignity rather than accept a poor exchange. Saying yes to everything does not make you generous. It makes you available to be used. Saying no to what is unworthy does not make you selfish. It makes you wise. You do not need to prove your openness by accepting what diminishes you. You do not need to keep the peace by agreeing to terms that break your own foundation. A healthy no creates space for the right yes. When you close the door to what is wrong, you open the way for what is right. When you refuse what drains you, you create room for what nourishes you. Life does not reward the one who clings to everything. It rewards the one who chooses with clarity. You can see this in a garden. If you never pull the weeds, they will take the sunlight and the water from the flowers. You must say no to the weeds if you want the flowers to grow. This is not cruelty, it is care. In the same way, you must say no to deals, to relationships, and to opportunities that choke your growth. Some people confuse rejection with self-protection. They think if they say no, the other will feel offended. But a no that is rooted in self-worth is not an attack. It is a boundary set without malice. It is a decision made without hate. It is a statement that you value your time, your energy, and your dignity. Those who understand their own worth will respect it. Those who do not were never meant to have your yeah. India's no was heard across the world. Some misunderstood it as rejection, but it was not a rejection of connection. It was a rejection of imbalance. It was the choice to preserve the invisible foundation of respect before the visible structure of trade collapsed. You can learn from this in your personal life. If an employer offers you less than you are worth, you can say no and wait for the right offer. If a friend asks for what will harm you to give, you can say no without ending the friendship. If an opportunity requires you to betray your own values, you can say no and still keep your vision alive. Saying no can be the most powerful yes to yourself. It is the yes to peace. It is the yes to integrity. It is the yes to the kind of future you want to build. Every no to what is unworthy is a yes to what is worthy. The fear of saying no comes from the belief that there is not enough. It comes from the belief that if you refuse what is offered, nothing better will come. But life is abundant. The world is wide. When you say no to the wrong thing, you are not closing off your future. You are aligning yourself with a better future. Look at the times in your life when you said no and later saw something greater arrive. Remember the relief you felt when you avoided the wrong path. Remember the strength you felt when you stood your ground. Those moments are proof that no can be a blessing. There are also times when you said yes against your better judgment. You may have felt the cost later. You may have wished you had honored your first instinct. This is the lesson. Your self-worth speaks quietly but clearly. It will tell you when a deal is not fair. It will tell you when a request is too heavy. It will tell you when an agreement is not in harmony with your values. Listen to it. In the realm of nations, the same truth applies. Agreements built on respect thrive. Agreements that ask one side to carry too much weight or accept too little in return will crumble. Saying no early can preserve the dignity of both sides. It can lead to a renegotiation on better terms. It can lead to entirely new partnerships. In the realm of personal life, a no can prevent resentment. It can prevent burnout. It can prevent the slow erosion of trust. It is far easier to protect your boundaries than to rebuild them after they have been crossed too many times. The power of no is in its clarity. It does not need to be loud. It does not need to be angry. It needs only to be firm. It needs only to be rooted in the knowledge of your worth. Once you know your worth, the decision is simple. You will not trade it for approval. You will not trade it for fear of missing out. India's no was a mirror to the world. It showed that a nation's self-worth can guide its choices. It showed that saying no to the wrong trade is not the end of prosperity. It is the beginning of a new path. It is the statement that dignity is worth more than any shipment of goods. You have the same power in your life. Every day you are offered trades. Some are trades of time for money. Some are trades of energy for relationship. Some are trades of values for opportunity. The choice is always yours. You can say yes or no. When you say no from self-worth, you are never truly losing. You are clearing space for the right yes. Remember this. No is not always a closing. It is often a turning. It turns you toward what matches your worth. It turns you toward what honors your values. It turns you toward what will bring lasting gain instead of fleeting benefit. Saying no can be the most loving act you ever perform for yourself. It is the protection of your garden. It is the guard at the gate of your destiny. It is the signature on the contract you make with your own soul. And when that no is spoken from a place of truth, it is never a rejection. It is always a declaration of worth. True prosperity is claimed, not begged for. Prosperity is not something that drifts into your life by chance. It is not a gift from another's table. It is not the result of pleading or hoping without action. It is the natural outcome of knowing your worth and acting from that knowing. When you beg for prosperity, you declare that you do not already have the seed of it within you. You place yourself below the one you ask. You speak as if they are the source and you are the receiver. This is not the truth. The true source of prosperity is within. The outer form comes through many channels, but the life force that draws it is born in your own belief. Claiming prosperity is not arrogance. It is alignment. It is the recognition that abundance is the natural state when you are in harmony with the laws of life. The tree does not beg the sun for light. The river does not beg the clouds for rain. They open themselves to receive what is already theirs by design. The beggar's posture says, I am dependent on your decision. The claimant's posture says, I am aligned with my rightful share. One waits for permission. The other moves with certainty. One watches from a distance. The other steps forward to take hold. Nations also reflect this truth. A nation that begs for prosperity accepts whatever terms it is given. It accepts unfair prices. It accepts one-sided agreements. It accepts a lower place at the table. A nation that claims prosperity demands fairness. It sets terms that match its worth. It walks away from what diminishes it. India's choice to step away from certain trade agreements was a choice to claim rather than beg. It was the statement that prosperity will not be defined by another's measure. It was the declaration that the nation's wealth is not tied to one partner's willingness. It was the move from dependency to self-definition. When you claim prosperity, you do not wait for the perfect conditions. You create them. You do not wait for someone to approve your value. You live from your value. You do not wait for the market to decide your worth. You set your worth and meet the market from that place. Begging energy repels abundance because it carries the vibration of lack. Claiming energy attracts abundance because it carries the vibration of ownership. You cannot hold the posture of a beggar and expect the harvest of a landowner. You must stand in the field as if it already belongs to you. Claiming does not mean taking what is not yours. It means taking full possession of what is yours, by right of being. It means removing the mental chains that say you must always accept less. It means speaking and acting as one who belongs at the table. The person who begs says, "Please let me have a chance." The person who claims says, "Thank you for my place." The first waits for a door to open. The second walks through because they know it is their door. The difference is invisible but powerful. The world responds to the energy you carry. This truth applies in your work. If you see yourself as lucky to be paid, you will accept any wage. If you see yourself as worthy of fair reward, you will negotiate until the terms match your value. This truth applies in your relationships. If you see yourself as lucky to have someone's attention, you will accept poor treatment. If you see yourself as worthy of respect, you will allow only respect to remain. A farmer does not beg the earth for a crop. He plants, he waters, he protects, then he harvests. His work is not to convince the soil to produce. His work is to act in alignment with the laws of growth. In the same way, your work is not to convince life to give you prosperity. Your work is to plant the right seeds and claim the harvest as your own. Nations that beg are at the mercy of others. Nations that claim stand as equals among equals. One is driven by fear of losing. The other is driven by certainty of worth. The first compromises too much. The second negotiates from strength. When you claim prosperity, you do not need to shout. Your actions speak for you. You choose only the opportunities that match your standard. You walk away from the rest. This is not loss. This is pruning. It creates space for the right growth. Some fear that claiming will offend others. But those who are offended by your worth are not the ones you should trade with. Those who respect your worth will match it with their own. This is true in business. It is true in friendship. It is true in life between nations. India's claim was a lesson to the world. It showed that prosperity is not a gift from a trade partner. It is not something that disappears when one door closes. It is something that can be built from within and then shared with others on equal terms. The posture of claiming changes the mind. It changes the tone of your speech. It changes the way you walk into a room. It changes the way you write your agreements. It changes the kind of people and opportunities that come to you. Life mirrors your self-view. If you see yourself as deserving, you will meet proof of it. Begging keeps you in a waiting position. Claiming moves you into an acting position. The beggar is always reactive. The claimant is always proactive. One is at the mercy of events. The other shapes events. To claim prosperity, you must first see it in the unseen. You must picture yourself living from it. You must feel what it is like to stand in it. The invisible belief will shape the visible reality. This is not wishful thinking. This is the creative process of life. Every great leader has claimed the vision before they built it. Every great nation has claimed its destiny before it fulfilled it. Every person who rose from little to much first saw themselves as more before the world saw it. This is why true prosperity is never won through begging. Begging places the power in another's hands. Claiming keeps the power in your own. You cannot build lasting wealth on a foundation of dependency. You can only build it on the foundation of self-belief. Remember this: the world will often try to give you less than you are worth. It is your job to claim more, not from greed but from truth. Not to take from others, but to take what is already yours in the realm of possibility. True prosperity is claimed. It is claimed by the nation that knows its value. It is claimed by the person who refuses to bow to unfair terms. It is claimed by the soul that understands it was never meant to beg for what is its birthright. And once you claim it, in the unseen the seen will rise to meet you. You multiply whatever you accept. This is the law of life. It is the reason small habits grow into large outcomes. It is the reason quiet compromises become loud consequences. It is the reason a single tolerated injustice can lead to a chain of greater ones. Whatever you allow to remain in your life increases its hold and its reach. If you accept respect, you will receive more respect. If you accept disrespect, you will receive more disrespect. The world reflects back to you the standard you set for yourself. The outer is always the mirror of the inner. The seeds you allow to remain in your soil will become the crop you harvest. In personal life, this truth is clear. If you accept lateness from others, you will experience it more often. If you accept unkind words, they will increase. If you accept payment below your worth, it will become the pattern. Life is always ready to give you more of what you allow. In national life, the same principle works. If a nation accepts unfair trade, it will receive more unfair trade. If it accepts imbalanced terms, they will multiply. If it accepts a position of dependency, it will find itself deeper in dependency as time passes. The invisible message of acceptance is an open door to repetition. You do not need to announce what you will accept. You declare it in the quiet choices you make. You declare it in the boundaries you keep. You declare it in the standards you hold without apology. Life does not simply listen to your words. It listens to your actions. India's choice to end certain trade agreements was the closing of a door. It was the statement that what had been accepted before would no longer be accepted now. This was not just about goods and prices. It was about the invisible law. To continue accepting imbalance would be to multiply it. To refuse it was to break the cycle. Multiplication works in both directions. If you accept growth, you will receive more growth. If you accept courage, you will receive more courage. If you accept fairness, you will receive more fairness. The law does not judge. It simply reflects and increases. Some people wonder why the same problems return again and again. They change locations, they change jobs, they change partners. Yet the pattern follows them. The reason is simple. They continue to accept the same seed in their inner garden. They may pull off the fruit, but they do not remove the root. The root will grow again and bear the same result. To change your life, you must change what you accept. This is not only about saying no to the wrong, it is also about saying yes to the right. It is about noticing when something is in harmony with your worth and allowing it to grow. It is about recognizing the good and watering it with gratitude. The more you accept peace in your thoughts, the more peace will come. The more you accept gratitude in your heart, the more reasons you will find to be grateful. The more you accept integrity in your actions, the more integrity will meet you from others. Multiplication is inevitable. You choose what will be multiplied. Nations choose in the same way. A nation that accepts innovation will see more invention. A nation that accepts exploitation will see more injustice. A nation that accepts freedom will see more opportunity. These are not accidents. They are the result of the law in action. When you raise your standard, you change the multiplication. You stop the growth of what drains you. You start the growth of what strengthens you. This is why small acts of courage can change the course of a life. This is why one firm decision can alter the path of a nation. Think of a river. If you allow waste to be poured into it, the pollution will spread downstream. If you stop the waste and add clean water, the river will clear over time. Your life is the same. Your nation is the same. What you allow to flow into it will flow through it and multiply. India understood that continuing to accept unfavorable terms would not only maintain the imbalance, but deepen it. Each year would bring more dependency, not less. Each deal would lean further away from fairness. The only way to stop the multiplication was to change the acceptance. You have this same power. Every day you can decide what will be allowed to remain. Every day you can decide which seeds will stay in your garden. You can decide which doors will remain open and which will be closed. Your acceptance is your invitation. Your refusal is your protection. Many people underestimate how quickly change can come when acceptance changes. They think it will take years, but the law of multiplication works on the new as quickly as it worked on the old. When you begin to accept better treatment, you will see signs of it sooner than you expect. When you begin to refuse what is beneath your worth, you will notice the absence of what once drained you. The key is consistency. If you change your acceptance for a moment, but return to the old standard, the old pattern will return. Multiplication does not stop. It changes direction according to your choices. You must hold the new acceptance long enough for it to bear fruit. This is why raising standards can feel uncomfortable at first. Those who benefited from the old acceptance may resist. They may try to persuade you to return to it. They may call you difficult. They may call you unreasonable. But you are not here to please those who profit from your lower standard. You are here to live in alignment with your worth. The same resistance can appear for nations. When a nation raises its standard in trade, the partners who benefited from the imbalance may push back. They may threaten loss. They may speak of broken trust. But the truth is that trust cannot exist without fairness. Prosperity cannot exist without balance. When you hold firm, you send a new message to the world. You declare that only what matches your worth is welcome. This message will draw new opportunities that match it. The multiplication begins anew in your favor. Remember this always. You cannot control every offer you receive, but you can control what you accept. You cannot stop every unfair act from being attempted, but you can stop it from becoming your pattern. What you allow is what will grow. India's step was not just an economic move, it was a spiritual one. It was the decision to stop the multiplication of imbalance and begin the multiplication of self-reliance. You can make the same decision in your life today. Whatever you accept, you will multiply. Accept strength, and you will multiply strength. Accept wisdom, and you will multiply wisdom. Accept dignity, and you will multiply dignity. This is the law, and it works without fail. Walk away from agreements that rob your power. Your power is the ability to choose. It is the ability to decide what is worthy of your time. It is the ability to protect what you have built. Any agreement that takes away this ability is too costly to keep. Some agreements seem small at first. The terms look harmless. The conditions look reasonable. But hidden within them is the slow erosion of your control. Each year the demands increase. Each year your share becomes smaller. Each year your choices narrow. By the time you notice, you have little freedom left. The same truth applies to nations. An agreement that seems beneficial at the beginning can become a chain over time. If one side grows stronger while the other becomes dependent, the balance is lost. The dependent side no longer acts from choice. It acts from necessity. It cannot say no without fear of loss. That is not partnership. That is captivity. To keep your power, you must be willing to leave the table. You must be willing to face the uncertainty of the open road. You must be willing to say that the cost of staying is greater than the risk of going. This is not recklessness. This is wisdom. Many people stay in agreements that drain them because they fear the unknown. They fear they cannot find better. They fear they will lose everything. But the truth is that leaving a wrong agreement creates the space for a right one. It is the removal of the weight that keeps you from rising. India chose to walk away from certain trade agreements because they no longer served the nation's strength. The terms had shifted over time. The gains were no longer equal. The conditions began to shape India's choices in ways that limited freedom. To stay would have been to surrender power. To leave was to reclaim it. You may face the same decision in your own life. You may have a job that once seemed like a blessing but now limits your growth. You may have a contract that once seemed fair but now binds you to terms that harm you. You may have a relationship that once supported you but now controls you. The moment you see the truth, you have a choice. Walking away is not always a public act. Sometimes it is a quiet inner decision that you will no longer agree to certain terms. Sometimes it is a mental shift that changes how you respond. Sometimes it is a bold action that others will notice. In every case, it is a movement toward freedom. Power grows when you make choices that honor your worth. Power shrinks when you remain in situations that deny it. Every day you stay in a draining agreement, you give a little more of yourself away. Every day you stay in a fair agreement, you grow stronger. The choice is always before you. A wrong agreement can hide in plain sight. It can look like stability. It can look like security. But if the stability is built on your silence, it is not real. If the security is built on your surrender, it is not lasting. True stability is built on fairness. True security is built on mutual respect. Nations know this in their trade. The visible goods may continue to move. The speeches may continue to praise the partnership. But if the foundation is no longer equal, the future is already in danger. The moment a nation realizes it is giving more than it receives, it must decide whether to stay or go. If it stays, the imbalance will grow. If it leaves, it must face the challenge of rebuilding. Rebuilding is hard, but rebuilding from a place of power is better than staying in a place of weakness. A garden that has been overrun with weeds will not heal if you simply water it more. You must clear the weeds first, then you can plant new seeds. Walking away is the clearing. It is the necessary act before the new planting can begin. The fear of loss often keeps people in harmful agreements. They forget that loss can be the doorway to gain. They forget that the open hand can receive more than the clenched one. They forget that freedom has a value beyond number. When you walk away, you send a message to yourself and to the world. You say, I am not bound to what limits me. You say, I will not trade my power for comfort. You say, I am willing to step into the unknown because I trust my own strength. This message attracts the agreements that match your worth. India's action was such a message. It told the world that the nation values its ability to choose more than the comfort of an existing deal. It told the world that freedom is not for sale. It told the world that prosperity built on dependence is not prosperity at all. You may find that when you walk away, the right people will respect you more. The wrong people will leave your life. Both are gifts. Respect attracts fair terms. The absence of the wrong removes the weight you no longer need to carry. The first step in walking away is recognizing the theft of your power. This requires honesty. It requires looking beyond the benefits you are still receiving to see the cost you are paying. If the cost is your freedom, the price is too high. The second step is making peace with the uncertainty ahead. This is where courage grows. This is where you remind yourself that you have faced change before and survived. This is where you trust that the same life that brought you to this point will carry you forward. The third step is to take the action. This may mean ending the deal. This may mean renegotiating from a place of firmness. This may mean moving to an entirely new path. The action is the visible proof of your inner decision. Walking away is not failure. It is refinement. It is the act of removing what no longer serves you. It is the act of aligning your outer agreements with your inner values. It is the act of choosing strength over comfort. Remember this. Your power is your ability to choose freely. If you lose that, you have lost the core of your freedom. No benefit can replace it. No payment can buy it back once it is gone. Protect it, guard it. Walk away from anything that takes it. When you do this, you will find that the agreements you form in the future will be stronger. They will be clearer. They will be more balanced. They will lift you rather than bind you. You will move forward lighter and freer. You will move forward with power in your hands again. Releasing what is wrong makes space for what is right. Life is not only about adding, it is about clearing. It is about letting go of what no longer serves you. It is about removing what blocks the flow of what you truly need. A vessel that is already full cannot receive more. If it is full of stale water, it cannot be filled with fresh water till the stale water is poured out. The same is true of your life. If your time is full of the wrong commitments, there is no room for the right ones. If your mind is full of wrong beliefs, there is no space for truth. If your hands are holding what is not meant for you, they cannot take hold of what is meant for you. Releasing is not loss, it is preparation. It is making room. It is clearing the ground so new seeds can be planted. A farmer does not plant new crops in a field full of weeds. He clears the field first. Only then can the new harvest grow strong. Nations must do the same. If a nation holds on to agreements that no longer bring balance, it blocks the path for better partnerships. If it clings to deals that drain its resources, it has no room for those that could enrich it. Releasing the wrong is not closing the door on opportunity. It is opening the door to the right kind of opportunity. India's decision to end certain trade agreements was not only about leaving, it was about creating space for a new direction. It was about freeing resources. It was about removing limits. The old arrangements had reached the point where they no longer served the nation's growth. Holding them would have meant holding back progress. People often fear release because they focus on what they are losing. They forget to see what they are gaining space for. They think only of the emptiness that comes in the first moment after letting go. They do not yet see the fullness that can follow. When you release the wrong, you send a signal to life. You declare that you are ready for the right. You remove the weight that has kept you from moving forward. You create space in your heart and in your hands. You create an opening that can be filled with what matches your worth. Holding on to what is wrong out of fear is like keeping a broken tool because you might need it. The truth is that the broken tool cannot do the job. It only takes up space where a useful tool could be. In the same way, wrong agreements cannot give you what you need. They only block the way. The fear of letting go often comes from the belief that nothing better will come. But life abhors a vacuum. When you clear the wrong, something new will arrive. The key is to clear with faith rather than with doubt. If you clear with fear, you will fill the space with something equally wrong. If you clear with faith, you will attract the right thing. You can see this truth in personal life. When someone leaves a draining job, they may at first feel uncertain, but the time and energy that were tied to that job can now be given to a better one. When someone ends a harmful relationship, they may feel alone for a season, but the absence of harm makes room for the presence of peace. The same law governs nations. When a nation ends an imbalanced trade, it may feel the short-term gap, but the resources and freedom it regains create the possibility for stronger, fairer partnerships. The empty space is not the end. It is the invitation. Releasing requires trust. You must believe that what is right for you exists. You must believe that it can find you when you make space. You must believe that you deserve it. Without this trust, you will cling to the wrong out of habit. It is not enough to release in form while still holding on in thought. You cannot end a harmful deal but continue to act as if you still need it. The release must happen in the unseen as well as the seen. Your mind must let go. Your emotions must let go. Your spirit must let go. Only then is the space truly clear. India's release was both visible and invisible. The contracts ended. The ships no longer carried the same goods. But there was also a shift in the unseen. The nation's self-view changed. The sense of dependency weakened. The vision of self-reliance grew stronger. This was the true release. When you release what is wrong, you also release the energy it was consuming. You release the constant adjustments to something that never fits. You release the effort of holding together what is already broken. This energy can now be used to build what is whole. Some will tell you to hold on. They will say that the wrong you know is better than the unknown you do not know. But this is a voice of fear. The truth is that the unknown holds as much possibility for good as it does for harm. When you choose from worth, you tilt that possibility toward good. Releasing is not the same as quitting. Quitting is giving up on what is right because it is hard. Releasing is letting go of what is wrong because it is harmful. One is surrender to weakness. The other is alignment with strength. Nations that refuse to release the wrong often find themselves trapped. Each year the terms grow worse. Each year the imbalance deepens. Each year the space for better opportunities shrinks. It is only when they release that new doors can open. You have the same power in your life. You can end the patterns that keep you small. You can stop giving time to people or work that do not respect you. You can let go of beliefs that keep you from moving forward. You can release and make space. When the right arrives, it will fit. It will strengthen you rather than weaken you. It will bring balance rather than imbalance. You will see that the space you feared was empty was actually full of potential. Releasing what is wrong is an act of faith. It is also an act of wisdom. It says that you trust the laws of life. It says that you know you are worthy of what fits. It says that you will not fill your life with what is unworthy just to avoid the sight of an empty place. India's action was this, in motion. It was the clearing of ground so that new growth could happen. It was the ending of one chapter so that another could begin. It was the refusal to keep the wrong in place out of habit or fear. And so it is for you. If something in your life no longer serves your growth, release it. If an agreement no longer honors your worth, release it. If a belief no longer reflects your truth, release it. Space is not your enemy. Space is your ally. It is the room in which the right thing can finally arrive. The greatest trade is fear for faith. There is no exchange more powerful. There is no transaction that changes life so completely. Fear is the weight that slows every step. Faith is the wind that carries you forward. When you trade fear for faith, you change the energy that shapes every choice. Fear is the voice that says you cannot. It is the thought that imagines the worst before it imagines the best. It is the habit of looking at the closed door and forgetting the open one. It is the shadow that stands between you and your next step. Faith is the voice that says you can. It is the thought that sees possibility even in difficulty. It is the habit of looking for the open door and trusting it will lead somewhere good. It is the light that reveals the path beyond the shadow. Fear is a taker. It robs you of courage. It robs you of time. It robs you of the chance to try. Faith is a giver. It gives you strength. It gives you direction. It gives you the will to begin. Every decision in life is a trade between these two. You cannot act from both at once. You either listen to the voice of fear or you listen to the voice of faith. One closes the hand. The other opens it. One freezes you in place. The other moves you forward. Nations also make this trade. A nation acting from fear clings to what it knows even when it no longer serves it. It avoids change because it imagines only the loss. It signs agreements that limit it because it is afraid of standing alone. It gives away its power because it fears what might happen without a partner. A nation acting from faith steps into the unknown when the known no longer works. It chooses freedom over dependency. It believes in its own resources. It believes it can build what it needs. It believes that life will meet it with opportunity once it moves toward independence. India's decision to end certain trade agreements was such a trade. Fear could have said, stay where it is safe. Fear could have said, accept the imbalance because it is familiar. Fear could have said, you will lose too much if you leave. But faith said, you can create something better. Faith said, you have the resources to stand on your own. Faith said, freedom is worth the risk. Fear imagines the path ending. Faith imagines the path opening. The path you walk depends on which one you choose to listen to. The mind will always offer both. The heart must decide. Fear keeps you tied to old agreements, old jobs, old beliefs, and old identities, long after they have expired. It tells you the discomfort you know is better than the possibility you do not know. It tells you to wait. It tells you to settle. Faith tells you that the discomfort of growth is temporary, and the reward is lasting. It tells you that the possibility you do not know may be exactly what you need. It tells you to act. It tells you to run. Trading fear for faith does not mean you never feel fear again. It means you no longer let fear make the final decision. It means you let faith speak louder. It means you act in the direction of faith even when fear whispers in the background. This trade happens in small ways every day. It happens when you speak the truth instead of staying silent. It happens when you take the step toward a new opportunity instead of talking yourself out of it. It happens when you walk away from what is wrong even though you do not yet see what will replace it. The more you make this trade, the easier it becomes. Faith grows with use. Fear shrinks when it is not obeyed. Every time you choose faith, you strengthen the habit. Every time you choose fear, you strengthen the chain. Nations build the same habits. A nation that acts from faith becomes known for courage. It becomes known for independence. It becomes known for standing by its values. A nation that acts from fear becomes known for hesitation. It becomes known for compromise without gain. It becomes known for placing safety above dignity. Fear asks, what if we fail? Faith asks, what if we succeed? Fear sees the loss of leaving. Faith sees the loss of staying. Fear focuses on what could go wrong. Faith focuses on what could go right. India's faith was not blind. It was built on knowing its own strength. It was built on the work of years. It was built on the belief that self-reliance is worth the effort. This is the kind of faith that changes history. It is not the wishful hope of doing nothing. It is the active trust that grows from preparation. In your life, the same trade is possible. You can choose to stay in fear, or you can choose to act in faith. You can choose to settle for what you know, or you can choose to trust that something better exists. You can choose to give your energy to doubt, or you can choose to give it to belief. This trade is the foundation of all other changes. Without it, you cannot leave the wrong agreements. Without it, you cannot claim your worth. Without it, you cannot plant the seeds of prosperity. Faith is the soil in which all growth happens. Fear is the frost that stops it. When you make the trade, you will feel lighter. The weight of fear will fall away. The air will feel clearer. The horizon will look wider. You will see choices where before you saw none. You will feel strong enough to act where before you felt frozen. This is not magic. It is the natural shift that happens when your mind and heart are aligned toward trust rather than toward dread. Faith is not a vague feeling. It is a clear decision. It is the choice to believe that life is on your side. Nations rise on this choice. People rise on this choice. You can rise on this choice. The size of the decision does not matter. The direction matters. Every step in faith moves you closer to freedom. Every step in fear moves you deeper into limitation. Fear says the risk is too great. Faith says the reward is worth the risk. Fear says stay where you are. Faith says move toward where you could be. Fear says protect what you have even if it is small. Faith says grow what you have until it is great. The greatest trade is fear for faith, because it changes the root of every other trade you make. Once you choose faith, you will walk away from what drains you. You will choose what matches your worth. You will plant seeds of abundance instead of seeds of lack. You will create agreements that strengthen rather than weaken you. India made this trade. It stepped out of the shadow of dependency and into the light of self-reliance. It chose the uncertainty of faith over the certainty of imbalance. And in doing so, it set the stage for a new chapter. You can do the same. Make the trade today. Release fear. Take faith. Build from that place. The outcome will not be perfect at once, but it will be alive. It will grow. It will carry you toward the life you are meant to live.